Good morning to you all. I hope that you're having a great Thursday so far as you get moving around and some of you take your 10 o'clock coffee break. I trust that you continue to do well and you continue to grow in your relationship with the Lord and that you continue to be safe. We are halfway through our Psalms of Ascent. So thanks for joining me today. We're going to be in Psalm 127. Remember, as we walk through these Psalms of Ascent, there are Psalms 120 through 134. The pilgrims will be singing this as they would go to Jerusalem, the place to worship. This was Jerusalem, remember, was the city and the hill where God had put his presence, and they would walk to Jerusalem 3 times a year for the annual feasts. Now, there's 4 Psalms are written by David, 1 is by Solomon, and 10 are anonymous. So this morning we're going to cover the one that Solomon wrote, and we are in Psalm 127. Instead of going through verse by verse like I did yesterday, I want to give you the theme or the overall idea of this psalm and then allow you to read through it at your own pace. And then hopefully this introduction will help set us all up for an understanding and then an application of God's word. So let's look at Psalm 127 this morning for a few moments. First of all, it's written by Solomon. Again, the only Psalm of Ascent, which is, again, Psalm 120 through 134, that was written by Solomon. Now, this Psalm 127, it ties in very well with the book of Ecclesiastes that Solomon wrote. And the theme and the idea of Ecclesiastes is life is meaningless without God. So if you want to be able to read this psalm and then take a pause and then go read the book of Ecclesiastes, it's a great way to tie these two themes and these two ideas together, and you'll understand more of what Solomon wrote. So Solomon highlights 3 priorities in life in this Psalm 127. He talks about building a home or a family. He talks about protecting your family or your city and your home. And then he talks about providing for your family once you have protected it and then you've built it. Now, this Psalm 127 is the first of 2 Psalms in the Psalms of Ascent that stresses the importance of the family and of the home. And it's really interesting that this psalm falls right in the middle. We're halfway through of our Psalms of Ascent. And it shows the importance as the home is the central unit of society. The home is a key place that we take and we train our children, we raise them, we educate them, we teach them the manners, we teach them to fear the Lord. And this really has been brought and driven home in the last 3 to 4 months during this pandemic, as many of us have been staying at home and working from home. We've been doing schooling from home. We've been doing groceries from home. We've been doing meals from home. There's been no sports. And so this family unit has really been pushed together, and it has shown us just how important the family unit is. And so when you read Psalm 127, read through it looking at it that the family is of vital importance, especially during the times of pandemic and when it's not times of pandemic. So as you read Psalm 127, read it through the eyes and the idea and the mindset that Jerusalem is returning from captivity. They're returning from Babylon captivity, and they have to be rebuilding the city. We looked at it yesterday that they had 70 years where people weren't taking care of their homes or their fields, and now they've come and they've returned and they need to rebuild. And as they look at the daunting task of rebuilding, Solomon writes and says they need to rebuild with the Lord as their foundation, with God as the center of their home, with God as the center of their city, with God as the center of their protection. Because if they don't have God, if God is not in it, then they're not going to prosper and it's going to be in vain. So let's go ahead and read really quick. I have a few extra minutes to read this psalm. And this is what Solomon says. He says, unless the Lord builds a house, its builders labor over it in vain. If God's not in the building of your home, then it's going to be in vain. Unless the Lord watches over a city and he protects the city, remember Jerusalem, the people are coming back to Jerusalem. If God's not going to protect Jerusalem, the watchmen that are staying there looking and watching for invaders coming, they're watching in vain. In vain, you get up early and you stay up late, working hard to have enough food. If God's not in your crops, if He is not in your life, if you are not relying upon Him, then it's all going to be in vain. And then he rolls into verses 3 through 5, and he talks about the blessings of children. Sons are indeed a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are the sons born in one's youth. So children are a blessing. Children are a blessing from the Lord. Happy is the man who has his quiver filled with children. They will never be put to shame when they speak with their enemies at the city gates. So Solomon is finishing this psalm of ascent saying you've got to have your home built on the Lord. You've got to have your city built on the Lord. Your protection has to be built upon the Lord. Your crops have to be built with the Lord. It all is the hinge pin on the Lord that we are relying upon Him. And if God's not in it, you're going to have a lot of work that is in vain. So, the question of application we have on this Thursday morning is what are you building your life with? Are you building it with God or are you building it without God? Because we don't want to get to the end of our life and look back and say, wow, I built all this, but forgot the key ingredient, which is God. So, don't walk through life without the Lord. If I can help you anyway, I trust you'll reach out. I will see you on Sunday morning for our live stream of our service. And I hope you have a great couple of days and continue to grow in your relationship with the Lord. I'll see you soon.